Howdy, all. I am Paul Thompson, and this is my Project Hell, where for the next 20 minutes or so, Kelly and I are going to throw away the corporate lingo and really just talk no nonsense project management and hopefully give you guys some plain solutions to real project problems.
And I'm Kelly Schockler. And in this episode of My Project Hell, Paul and I are going to do a hot topic for you, something related to project management, where we might just be able to provide a little fresh insight for you to help you in your day-to-day project management journey. And then we're going to head into Coach's Corner and take up a Project Hell issue presented by our guest PM. And for those of you who made it here today live with us, we want you to use the chat to chime in with your clever insights. Or if you have a question, use that Q&A feature we have here in Zoom webinars and go ahead and type in your burning questions for us.
Yes, please.
And with that, Paul, what do we have for hot topic?
Well, so for those of you who don't know, the Earth has 200 million square miles of surface area. Okay. And it has a mass of 6.6 sextillion tons, housing nearly 7.9 billion people. And I tell you that because today's hot topic is it's a small world. And what do we mean by that? Well, I've got another story, right? So in the early 1940s and 50s, my wife's family had a ranch in Druzy, Oregon, where they raised their children and lived before moving off to the big city in Portland in the early 60s. Now, just to be clear, Druzy is exactly what it sounds like. That little ranch country, small town, just like you see in the movies, right? Population less than 1,100 people. The two most notable buildings there are the gas station that doubles as the post office and the bar, and then across the street, the church that houses every denomination. So that is a small town. Now, fast forward to 50 years later, and I had driven down the dirt roads to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. That's 1,905 miles due south of Druzy. And it was there that I met an 82-year-old woman named Mary. And Mary was from Druzy. Pretty amazing there. But it got more surprising when she told me she'd lived there all of her life. And she had worked as a school teacher where she remembered my wife's two oldest brothers when they were in grade school. So that's how small the world really has gotten with everything.
Were there dead cow skulls laying around in the dirt?
That's right.
Yeah. So just to Paul's point, you think you live in this big, gigantic city, and not really, because Paul and I live in the Seattle metro area, and there's just over 3.5 million people here. So you think it would be almost impossible to cross paths with people who you may have worked with. Au contraire, PMs, it is a small world. Twice I've had it happen in the past handful of years, where someone from a past job with whom I worked with was interviewing for a job where I presently worked with. And that person was not exactly nice. I'm just going to say it. Burned some bridges, not someone that I or others peers wanted to work with again. And here they are. They're interviewing at the company that I'm currently with. And somehow the hiring manager, probably went on LinkedIn and see who you're connected to, finds out that I've worked with this person and comes to me and says, "Hey, Kelly, how was it working with them?" It doesn't end well for the other person. I mean, when you have a history of working poorly with stakeholders, being a jerk, you're burning bridges. It's unprofessional, and that stuff can come back to haunt you. So look, this is about maintaining your relationship bridges. I like to call them healthy relationship bridges. That means the care and feeding of your stakeholders as you're going through projects, and you don't want to burn that. You need to tend to the relationships, even when it's difficult. And, I get it. Sometimes you do need to quit, but there's a graceful way to do that. You don't want to be using your grenades and your flamethrowers that we all have in our arsenal. You never know when those past coworkers are going to pop up. And usually it's in the unexpected places where you least expect it. Paul, it's kind of like ex-boyfriends. Do you really want to hook back up with an ex-boyfriend that never returned your favorite books and then text message breakup with you?
Oh no, I got you. I got you. It
Yeah.
and it can feel so good, right? To pull out that grenade and toss it onto the group as you're out the door. But as you say, you burn that bridge, and it's a pretty long lasting effect. And I'm going to kind of look at it for you from the other side of it, right? So a lot of our customers for MetaGuire come on referrals and the relationships we've built, right? And it is that word of mouth that is positive. And if you go looking for another job, another gig, you should be able to use your network and your relationships. And you're going to find that most of the time, those are going to get you the best results for what's next in your career. And as part of that, I think you need to remember you need to work that garden, right? One of the things I did early on in my career that was terrible, I would go into a project, and these would be big, year, 2 year long projects, and heads down, work, work, work. But I'd pop up at the end, and I didn't know where all the people that I had relationships had gone to. I hadn't kept in touch. And I felt like I was starting over in my job search. You know what I mean, Kelly? That
Paul's bubble.
yeah, And so since then, what I've learned is really on my calendar, you're going to find a weekly little time slot set aside just for me to go send out emails, talk to people, text to say hi, even if it's just following, what are they doing on any of the social media, just so I can kind of keep track of where they are and keep that relationship in a good state, because we do have to farm these and nurture them if we want them to grow. And as much as they can hurt you, as Kelly said, if you throw the grenade on the pile and then come back to see, need a little reference from someone you just grenaded, Kelly will tell you, told you the results of that. I'm going to tell you the other side of it is you have to water and nurture the relationship so you can go back.
Yeah, and Paul, I just want to add, we're not saying you always have to take that proverbial high road. I mean, that's the integrity thing to do, but at to compromise your core values, there are situations where you might need to walk away, right? But it's just, we want to stress, choose wisely. If you need to walk out of a situation in the moment, which I'm going to tell you, I've thrown a grenade before, but I evaluated it, right? I knew that if I did this, there would be consequences possibly. So you've got to do what's best for you. So evaluate what's at stake, what the cost might be, both to you and them in the future. And then at the end of the day, walking out at a moment's notice was my best choice. So to wrap this up, Paul and I just want to stress, do your best to maintain professionalism in your workplace, even in the midst of the worst circumstances. When walking away is what you need to do, you can always do it with grace and dignity. And I'm going to add this last little tidbit. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions.
That is absolutely true.
All right. So, Paul, are you ready for Coach's Corner?
What do we have up on the board?
We have Claire. And Claire's a senior project manager in charge of a large product implementation in her organization. And she couldn't join us live today because she's working on her dumpster fire project health situation. But she did send us her issue. She gave us permission, of course, to share with you today. And we're going to ask her to listen to the YouTube replay on our YouTube channel. So here's the situation, everyone. Are you ready? All right. She says, I'm the project manager on a high visibility, make it or break it software product implementation for a critical supply chain customer. We're behind schedule by a lot. I'm too embarrassed to tell you how long the development team has been at it on trying to make this product work for the customer. But that's an entirely different story for another time. As we come up on the end of the year, when our go live date has been set for the 4th time, I have 2 stakeholders in my project who are major roadblocks to getting over the finish line for user acceptance testing. One is an external customer who's the subject matter expert and lead tester for the product, and the other is an internal product success relationship manager on the product side, helping the customer through testing. They both have been with their respective companies for over 25 years and have been involved in the product development at various stages. The issue is the product success manager has forgot who she represents and has too much empathy. She's negative about the product with the customer, and she acts like she is the customer. The external customer then nitpicks and wants everything perfect, the way it was with the old version of the system. I'm unable to get them to make progress in the user acceptance testing. Any ideas on how to get unstuck with this? Paul, I'm sure you have ideas. Why don't you share
Well,
those? Share some
kind
ideas.
of brings back,
Dig deep.
little of my dark side from the days of being a developer.
Oh wait, you have a dark side?
Before coming into the light of project
Okay.
management. So since Claire's not here, a couple of questions that I would probably want to know would be things like, what does progress look like for her? Even a little step forward towards progress, to build momentum. What would that look like?
I think that's a good question. We got to know what progress looks like, right? What are we looking at?
Also, I think I would want to know is who do these 2 folks report to, right? And are their bosses interested in making that same progress, or are they kind of competing, and thinking that their staff is doing all the right things? Because if they don't report to Claire, she's going to have to rely on her stakeholders to kind of manage down to the people that she's struggling with. Also, she needs to highlight this roadblock to her project management stakeholders in a way that shines a very bright light on it and build that coalition so she can take that to the project owner and start to work with them to get that, progress started. She's going to have to do that in a way that says, here's the risk, here's the impact, and we've got a mitigation, but you guys have to do this, right? So that would kind of be where I would like to get her to without having a lot more information.
Yeah, say more about shining that light with leadership. I mean, you said a little bit about it, but in your mind, is there a certain way to share that?
Absolutely. And I mean, we sound like a broken record a lot of times, right? It's the one-page analysis, the S-bar, whatever you want to call it, right? That really calls out in a very concise way, this is the issue, right? Here's the situation. Here's what the business impact is, and here's the recommendation. And just when you can, in your mind, bring it down to just a few sentences and cover all 3 of those on less than 1 page or down to 1 page, it does a couple of things. It makes sure you've thought through all of this stuff, but then it also makes it easy for all your stakeholders and project owners to really get a grasp and a handle on the situation fast.
Yeah, and I hear you saying, don't be a Chicken Little. The sky is falling, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, when I'm thinking about this issue, I mean, Claire, if you're listening, I imagine you've tried a few things. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here. So maybe you have tried to get some facilitated conversations going, but if you haven't, I think ideally it would be nice if you're able to take the two of them out for lunch or coffee, and that might not be possible right now, it might just be virtual, but what if you put together a session where you said, hey, Wilma and Betty, I want to get together with you both and listen to what you have to say about this whole Bedrock product testing, how it's going, and what can I do to help make your lives easier as you test it? And then let them do most of the talking while you're listening and getting underneath their narratives, because we all have narratives about things, right? Stories, things that we believe to be true from our perspective. When you do this, I'm going to bet you're going to start understanding just a little bit more what's causing their resistance to the change or getting through this. And you'll start hearing what their frustrations really are. And then it'll be your turn to show them how you might tweak a few things so that you can get more buy-in to getting the testing complete and acceptance of the product. I mean, maybe it's asking the product owner to include them in a preview before they do releases, before they test it, right? Taking time to explain the features, being very specific on how those features are changed and how it's better than the old way. And most of all, I'm a broken record on this, what's in it for them? Like, how are these changes meaningful? How is it going to make their life better, right? Explaining the justification for why the change was made in the way things function. I mean, that takes a little bit of time, but it might be the thing that they need. I mean, most of the time, Paul, we just want to know that someone cares and that they're listening, right? To what we think and how we feel, and maybe just to get a little validation, your frustration is warranted. And that might simply be all that's needed, like just saying, I know this sucks, and we'll do what we can to ease your way and move this forward.
And I think you hit something really, the nail right on the head, especially with bringing them around to sort of hear their narrative and dig under it, right? Because part of the struggle I think everybody has faced over the last, I'm going to say 18 months of COVID, is so many things have changed, the isolation. I'm sure testing used to be done more socially, it was more in person, and all of a sudden these people are now feeling isolated on top of everything else, maybe not hearing about the features like you described. So I think you definitely are onto something there, where you start is bringing them into some of the product development meetings and bringing them up further in the chain to understand the features, going to help kind of loosen up that feeling of frustration. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, would you agree that as project managers, it's up to us to create a safe environment where our stakeholders can express their concerns and frustrations and be heard? And there's hearing and then there's listening, two different things. That's for a different show probably, but yeah.
Absolutely. And Claire, I hope when you listen to this, if any of this rings true, if any of this stuff gets used, please let us know. Drop us another note, follow up, and we look forward to hearing more about how this turns out. You're not alone, so help us learn from your experience as well. And I like Laura and Matt Henson's comment, right? Building the relationship. Kind of reaches around back all the way to small world.
It
right?
does.
So it does all pay it forward. All right. Caitlin, how are we doing? We got some time. Do we have any questions that have been thrown your way?
We do not have time.
We do not. All right.
You're so bossy. No, she's right.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today in this episode of My Project Hell. Be sure to follow My Project Hell channel on YouTube, where you can get all the replays of every episode. We've put a link to our myprojecthell.com website in the post-show email that you're going to get. And we want to remind you, Paul and I have 30-minute sessions where you can book time with us and we'll help you problem solve for your Project Hell situation. Those links are also in the email.
Absolutely. And I hope you guys did enjoy the show. I know Kelly and I had a lot of fun. Please join us next time where we're going to cover vendor management as our hot topic. And don't forget, those of you looking for PMI credits, you can throw that down and get your half an hour credit. So if you would like to participate in Coach's Corner, drop us an email at myprojecthell@gmail.com. We are always looking out, and I cannot say this enough. We are always looking out for project managers.
We are always.
Who want to climb out of their own project hell. We really want to help them. And in the post-show email that Kelly mentioned, you're going to find a link to the survey. And please, I encourage you to fill that out because we also benefit from lessons learned. So thank you all very much. And that puts us at our 20 minutes. So we are out of here.
Thank you, everyone.